And so it doesn't matter how cash rich a few of us may be, we are not truly wealthy. So what is the prescription? I would like to suggest that we go back to our value systems. Prof, Reverend, you talked about indigenous microorganisms. Let's go back to our indigenous microorganisms. Sankofa is a saying in Twi. Twi is an Akan language in Ghana. It means to pick up. It means it is not abhorrent to go back and take something of value that one left behind. Go back to your roots. To do that, we need many Prof. Utomis. But until we can clone him, we have to find the way. We have to find them. We have to groom them. You know, the thing though is that all of us have a Prof. Utomi in us. Let's get off that fence and contribute in every way we can to making Nigeria better, to making Ghana better, Africa better. The leadership that we have, the poor governance that we have, is because we have allowed it to happen. Kofi Annan has said that he has seen recalcitrant governments, but he has also seen how citizens' power can change the tide in their favor many times. And he prescribes 3 ways. Use your thumb, vote. And Nigerians proved last year that that is possible. Use your voice, speak out. And now we have so many ways, so many mediums of doing that. Use your feet. Take away your money from the things that you do not support. Yesterday, Madame Ezekwesili also prescribed education, and I concur fully. But we need to get leaders with those positive values that we need and who truly care about the development of our nations rather than themselves, to put in place the structure and the content of that education. And I'm not talking only about political leadership. I'm talking also about leadership at all levels of society: family, community, business, religion, tradition, and of course, politics. Those leaders are right here in this room. But to bring about that change, we need to make some personal sacrifices and be ready to make them. Are we ready? Until we are, this status quo, in which we lose $50 billion annually as a continent to illicit financial flows, facilitated by corruption and weak governance, will not change. That same amount of $50 billion can actually build the infrastructure that we need on the continent to accelerate our development and make the quality of life better for the people. Finally, I want to end with this. Whether we like it or not, we are in the global development race. And I want you to paint in your mind the picture of 2 people running a race. They are both in both in excellent health, with all their parts of the body working perfectly. But before they run the race, in fact, one of the 2, who is even better endowed than the other, takes a rope, folds one of his or her legs, it can be a man or a woman, and ties that leg tightly. These are 2 people running. One who is even better endowed folds their leg, ties it with a rope. The race begins. It doesn't matter how long the race is or how fast the one with the tied leg runs. That person will never beat the other who is running with both legs. Unless we, in Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, empower that half of our population, women, to enable them contribute fully to development, we will remain impoverished. Kweju Agri said that when you educate a man, I'm sure many of us have heard this several times, to enable them contribute. But when you educate a woman, you educate a nation. The potential of women to accelerate the development of our continent is huge, but we will never realize it if we continue with the traditions, cultural practices, norms, and mores that restrict them and curb their potential. In the book, Why Nations Are Poor, Prophet Tomi talks about a poor widow, in fact, about 2 or 3 of them, whose lives have been made significantly worse once their husbands died. Immediately, their protective covering was removed. Without the man, they were nothing and lost everything. Socially, politically, economically, we tie up half of our population and inhibit our own progress. We want to get out of poverty, we want to restore our dignity and enjoy true wealth. Let's enable everyone who is born to get the opportunity to be the best they can be. Of course, it's easier said than done. But it starts with you and I, doing all we can within our sphere of influence to make life better, not only for ourselves, but our families, our communities, and our nations. Thank you very much.
As she was speaking, I could see a lot of people nodding, and it means that what she was saying sank in. So please, let's give her another round of applause. Nana Afadzenu, thank you very much for those insightful words. It has driven some of us to the point where we're going to see that we wake up and do the right thing. Talking about preparing for the future, I will invite shortly a man who also is in the race for preparing us for the future. He is a man of God. And when I say prepare us for the future, you know that we all hope. Let me just find out, because it's not everybody. Is anyone here ready? Do you want to go to heaven? Just raise your hand. Those of you who, not now. Those of you who want to go to heaven, can I see your hand up? Okay. All right. The bishop is looking at you. The cardinal is looking at you. If he sees a member of his congregation now, so he knows that that is not one of his candidates. But these people prepare us for the future as well. And that is exactly what her presentation has been about. That we need to begin to prepare for the future. And every time I read the verse in the Bible of the 10 maidens that went to wait to see the groom, it just teaches me how to prepare for the future. The ones that were prepared for the future and the expectancies that they are not prepared for took extra oil. In Africa these days, we don't even go with oil at all. We just go there and wait. And when they say it's going to take 3 more hours, we just leave, because we know that we can't wait. So it's preparing and getting an extra oil. Nana, please. Thank you so much. Please give her another round of applause. At this time, I'd like to invite Eminence John Cardinal Onayeko. Please, let's give him a round of applause. The microphone.
Your Excellency, Vice President, and all of us, brothers and sisters, good friends, both Nigerians and non-Nigerians. I only came to wish Pat Utomi happy birthday, welcoming him to the club of the he's now sexagenarian. We have passed to the club of the septuagenarians. I'm 72. I became 72 last week, which is why I'm actually ready to go to heaven now. Yes, I've reached the stage to get ready to go to heaven. Yeah, I didn't prepare a written paper, but I just wanted to make a few points, and I think that's all we have time for, really. Yeah. First point I wanted to raise is, and the last speaker already hit at that, is that it seems like in the world of today, religion is practically on trial. There's too much bad news connected with religion, and not only in our country, but internationally speaking. And not only in the fact that there are fanatics who believe that only they know what God wants and everybody must comply, and are ready to use violence, including murder, to pursue their religious objective. Not only that, but also that religion has become very easily manipulated by political interests. It's not that politicians, the problem is not that politicians, where it's possible, they manipulate religion. The problem for me is that very often the religious people too make themselves easily available for manipulation. And the result, of course, is that the role of religion, that's supposed to be a guidance to right living, becomes compromised. You can go further also to the fact that sometimes you really wonder what the different forms of ideas about religion. It's wonderful that we seriously take the freedom of everybody to believe whatever you like. The result, of course, is that there are so many things going in the name of religion. And there are many kinds of religious leaders. My own private jet has not arrived yet. And even my Pope has no private jet. Not that he cannot afford it, but he doesn't need it. And I don't need it either. But you see, it's difficult for very often we who call ourselves people who are for religion, we have to constantly be defending what we are doing. And yet, the good news is that we are told 85% or more of humanity still believe in God. And still expect that they be guided in their lives by something more than what is happening here. That doesn't mean that what is happening here is not important. Indeed, it is very important. But that what is happening here is important if it also does not lose sight of what comes later. And if we are able to balance both the now and the hereafter, then the thought of the hereafter will help to tone down some of the excesses of which we have been hearing of recent. And so that is the first point I wanted to make. The second point I wanted to make is about our country, Nigeria, and the role of religion in the country, Nigeria. I'm afraid that there is danger of polarization, and whereas we need to move together. And it is difficult even to talk about putting our heads together when there is too much anger from various directions. I do not know how we are going to get over that. The South Africans had their experience of what they call truth and reconciliation. I believe the situation in Nigeria, I'm not talking about Ghana or other African countries, talking of our own country. The is such that we really need to do something seriously along those lines. I think more in terms of repentance, reparation, and reconciliation. Repentance will mean really telling the truth to ourselves. It is possible to repent, to say, oh, we did it wrong, let's do it better now. And reparation will mean, it's a consequence. If you are repented, then you repair. Reparation includes justice. And finally, it's only when it's done properly that we can be properly reconciled. And for reconciliation, you have to add another element, the element of forgiveness. Can we think along those lines? This will not be a political agenda. And where do our religions and religious instincts come in? I believe that if they say Nigerians are very religious, it is not something we should be ashamed of, because religion can be also an asset. How do we turn this asset into real, useful catalyst for making this country a better place? I believe it is possible. How we do it will require a lot of serious thinking, sincerity of spirit among ourselves, and cooperation between those who hold political power and other people who hold all kinds of other areas of importance within our society. At the end of the day, if we don't have peace, there can be no progress, and all the beautiful ideas of Father Namujo cannot take off. You need a peaceful environment for that to happen. I believe my brother Pat Otomi have been working on this in this direction. The whole of his projects is to let us know that there are alternatives to the things we are not happy about. That as Nigerians, we need not really lose hope that we can change. I'm not talking of change in any political sense now. But I mean, what we do, if we are not happy with with a lot of things, that we need to change. We need to change that to a better way of doing things. And I do believe that is possible. I wish Pat Utomi God's blessing. 60 years is quite a time, but for him, he has done a lot in those 60 years. If there is, you all know he's a good Catholic. He's a very good Catholic. One of those who is not ashamed of his religion. And I think that a lot of what he's doing is also inspired by his faith. And when we see that, we believe then that our work has not been futile. May God bless you. And I think that a lot of what he's doing is also inspired by his faith. And when we see that,
gone are the days, and if you remember what the occupational trend had always been in Nigeria, it is that we started respecting people who were missionaries because they were teaching us values. And then gradually from respecting them who were missionaries, they became teachers, and we started respecting teachers. And from respecting teachers, they became civil servants because the people they taught now started working in civil service. Some of them worked in railways, and we respected the people who worked in the railways. And some joined the army. We started respecting those who worked in the army. All right, so the occupational trends have really been the background of how society really respects people. In those days, Cardinal would have been like the president of every area. And we all, in fact, to marry even, they would go and ask him, missionary whether this girl is okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, they're still custodians of our society. Let's give Cardinal another round of applause. And I'll quickly invite the Most Reverend Dr. Augustine Akubeze. Please give him a round of applause to come. The Archbishop.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Eminence, John Cardinal Onaiko, Honorable Minister, the Chairman of this occasion, Professor Pat Otomi, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The theme of this discussion is wealth, poverty, and human dignity. And my reflection is as follows. Pope Francis, in his bull of indiction, Misericordia Vultus, declared 8 December 2015 to 20th November 2016 the extraordinary Jubilee of Mercy. He directed that all the faithful contemplate the face of the merciful Father through the words and actions of Christ Jesus, who has come to show us the Father. This year, therefore, offers us a special opportunity to reflect with a merciful heart towards the plight of the poor in our society. He calls on us to wake from indifference to the misery surrounding us. The Jubilee Year of Mercy is an opportunity to open our hearts to those living at the fringes of society and rediscover the corporal works of mercy, of feeding the hungry, soothing the thirsty, clothing the naked, etc. The suffering of the poor and the thirsty, the suffering of the poor and the growing income disparity between the poor and the rich in Nigeria is something of great concern. It should trouble every reasonable person. In this short presentation, I intend to draw the attention of us all to the plight of the poor in the society and the need for a response from all of us. The Catholic Church, as an institution in Nigeria, has always been working hard to perform its prophetic role of being the voice of the voiceless in our country. I will briefly highlight how we as a church have attempted to alleviate the poverty and promote respect for human dignity through our educational policies and healthcare provision in this country. The Catholic Church in Nigeria is involved in various charitable acts to help the poor. The natural resources and wealth of Nigeria are certainly enough to meet the needs of the people of this country. The equitable distribution of wealth and resources to meet the needs of each person is essential for every society that wants to grow. The society that has no provision for the most vulnerable and the weak is not showing any serious sign to be civilized. The common good must not be subjugated to any individual or group desire. The challenge has been how to ensure that everyone in our society has a fair share of the resources. The income disparity in Nigeria shows that we are a society with lots of poor people. According to the 2010 World Bank report, 80% of the proceeds from the sale of crude oil benefits 1% of the Nigerian population on account of corruption. Consequently, many of our people are wounded and degraded by poverty, a poverty that generates other social problems: armed robbery, kidnapping, human trafficking for sex labor, terrorism, cyber crimes, seeking relief in drug and drug pushing. Nigeria, Poverty is visible in every sphere of our society. One of the consequences of poverty is the quality of life of the people. A lot of our people are not able to eat well, go to school, or receive proper medical treatment in moments of illness. This serious situation of poverty and poor medical facilities has led to the growth of prosperity gospel preachers and the offer of instant healing for any sick person. The poor medical facilities and the high level of illiteracy are making our people more vulnerable and susceptible to the manipulations of some pastors to preach prosperity gospel in an economy that is riddled with corruption. The poor are robbed literally of their human dignity because of their pitiable situation. In this year of mercy, let us see how specifically we can respond to some of their needs. The dignity of the human person is not what the society gives to the person. Human dignity has been given to man by God. The obligation of man is to work to ensure the protection of this dignity. It is part of the human dignity that man should have decent work and have enough income to support himself and the family, and also contribute to the healthy growth of society. One aspect of respect for human dignity that I want to use this medium to emphasize is that need to ensure that we promote a culture of life against a culture of death. The protection of the unborn child, which in our society for long has been taken for granted, is being assaulted by a number of abortions in our society. Let us educate our people on this matter. An unborn child is a human being with the rights to live. In addition, I want to point out that there should be respect for the elderly in our society. To use this children must take care of their elderly parents and not just abandon them in the village. An elaborate burial for your parents that one has not taken care of the wife or life is disrespect. Protection of the commandment that calls us to honor our father and mother. The Catholic Church, through her various agencies, have been trying seriously to fight poverty in all ramifications. We have numerous programs that primarily target the welfare of the poor. A number of dioceses have increased locally generated funding to assist the poor. The members of St. Vincent de Paul Society, for example, have established low-cost housing for the poor. They make provisions based on their limited resources for the feeding of the poor. A number of parishes donate food items to the poor. But we know that these efforts alone cannot solve the suffering of the poor. So we need government and the private sector to partner with the church to establish programs that help to grant soft loans to the needy so that they will be empowered. Education is essential for the total eradication of poverty in our society. The Catholic Church in Nigeria has been in the forefront of education of people. More than half of the schools in Nigeria before government takeover of schools in the 1970s were established and managed by the Catholic Church. The takeover of schools has greatly affected the standard of education in our country. We are calling on government at the state level to return schools back to the mission with compensation. We praise state governments who have done this already. Only through proper education can our people be liberated from poverty. The Catholic Church in Nigeria has continued to establish new schools. There are also special needs schools for the blind. However, some of the challenges we are facing is the fact that some of these schools need proper funding to make it accessible to more people with low income. The tuition fee in some cases is relatively high for the poor. We are calling on government at all levels and the private sector to partner with the church to fund these schools so that we can pay good salaries to the staff and still have the schools open to lots of poor people. Presently, given our limited fund, we have a few slots allotted to indigent students. The scholarship for the poor is helping to give proper education to the poor who hitherto will not have been able to afford it. We are aware that a lot of government-funded hospitals are overcrowded and understaffed in some cases. This has led to the growth of in the private hospitals and clinics. However, most of these private hospitals are not accessible to the poor because of cost. We as a church have always been engaged in hospital management. We believe that hospitals are extensions of the healing ministry of Christ. Hospitals established by the church are increasing in Nigeria. We are also trying to make it easily accessible to the poor. But once again, it is not easy to get good medical personnel without good pay. We need the government and the private sector to partner with the church in this area of health care provision. Such a partnership will help to subsidize the high overall cost of administering these hospitals. Clinics in the rural areas are aspects where most dioceses in Nigeria are getting into more and more. A lot of people in our rural areas are still dying from diseases that have cure. There is high rate of infant mortality and maternal mortality at birth. One statistics indicate that Nigeria, which is 2% of the world population, is responsible for 10% of maternal birth mortality in the world. Most of these happen in the rural areas where the people are very poor and have little or no access to medical facility. We are trying to establish clinics with medical personnel to assist in this area. This is another area where I strongly urge the government and the private sector to partner with the church. A number of dioceses in Nigeria do have orphanages to care for abandoned children. It is always a huge challenge getting the resources to keep these orphanages going every year. We will need private sector and government partnership also in this very important area. Professor Pat Utomi, 60th birthday. I join the many voices who have been expressing congratulations to you on your 60th birthday. You certainly don't look 60. You look much younger. In addition, your accomplishments for the past years make most people I have spoken with express pleasant surprise. When I told some persons that I was going to deliver a talk on the occasion of your 60th birthday, the common response has been, "You mean Pat Utomi is just 60? I have been hearing of him and his contributions for many years, so I thought he was far older than 60. I also quickly tell them that this is true, that your achievements are huge when compared to your age, and that very few people work so hard as you do. That the passion for seeing Nigeria become a great nation burns in you. That this passion is informed by your Catholic faith on justice and care for the poor. So you have written and spoken about the need for Nigeria to discover the path to posterity. I recall here with sentiments of joy your book, Why Nations Are Poor, published in 2006 by the Center for Applied Economics, Lagos Business School. This book explores the reasons why countries are poor. Professor Pat Utomi has been one of those in the forefront fighting and working hard for the alleviation of poverty and respect for human dignity in Nigeria. So I commend his efforts and urge him not to relent, to continue to be the voice of the voiceless in our society. In conclusion, I want to use this forum to call on all Nigerians to work for the total eradication of poverty in our society. Let us start by empowering our people through the promotion of education of the poor, provision of good health care for the people, and have good quality life. May God bless our country, Nigeria. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. One thing that I have come to know is that there are some very practical men of God who do not dance around words, they just tell you as it is. And the Archbishop is one of the Archbishop of the Roman Catholic Church, Benin Diocese. Please give him another round of applause. Father Kuka, Bishop Kuka, told me once that he was in this office and somebody came to meet him and said he wants him to pray for her because she has a serious headache. And she had been waiting for about like 15 minutes. And so he asked her, have you eaten? She said yes. And so he went to his cabinet, brought water, and when he turned, she was already kneeling down. And he looked at her. He dropped the water. Her eyes were closed. He went to the cabinet, brought paracetamol, tapped her shoulder. She opened her eyes. He gave her 2 tablets. And she said, well, say, take, drink water. And she said, no, she wanted prayer. He said, this is what paracetamol is made for. Don't come and be disturbing man of God every time. The 15 minutes you were waiting, if you took paracetamol, you would have been better. And she left. He said he made sure to call her like 30 minutes later and said, how are you? She said she's fine. What of the headache? He said it's gone. He said, don't be troubling God with small matters. And so, true, the church knows that having a hospital and some amenities are important. And we thank you again, sir, for your listening. And for those of you who have listened, it is important for you to support the church in helping that the people are well. I was taught by a man called Ikena Ndagoba. All right. All right. I'll go back to why I was taught and what I was taught. I will. I think Archbishop is taking his lead now. This happened sometime in Sheraton. We were having an event. Right. It was an international event. People from Australia, Germany, and the rest of them. And the light went. I was the first person to shout. What was that? What happened? What was that? What? And the Australians and everybody were shocked. And one of them came to me and said, what happened? I said, I don't know. It never happened in Nigeria before. And this is how people were laughing. People were laughing at me when I was trying to save Nigeria's image. And the guy said, oh, I thought it was an earthquake or something. And then we sat down and the show started. And you know, NEPA disappointed me. They did it 3 times. Ladies and gentlemen, I was coming to it that I was taught by Ikena Ndagoba. And he told me that one of the best introductions that you can give to any man at all, is when you say, the man that is coming up to the microphone now is a man that needs no introduction. Because it means that the man doesn't need an introduction. Please welcome the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor.
Thank you very much. Please sit. Thank you. The chair, Mr. Folusho Phillips, I'll come back to the celebrant, the Honorable Minister for Mineral Resources, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, Your Excellencies, the former Governor of Lagos State, Your Excellency, the Ambassador, the Rwandan Ambassador to Nigeria, Cardinal John Onayeko, and panelists and other distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the very warm welcome And let me say that I'm here primarily because I could not miss the opportunity to ensure that I witnessed Pat's 60th birthday. And just as everyone has said, or as a few people have said, I didn't really believe that Pat Utomi was 60 years old. I really didn't believe at all. I thought he was much younger, frankly. You know, and part of the reason is because forever, I mean, Pat has been, I think that he was probably about 20-something when he was special assistant to the president. I think it was probably 27. I was, you know, so, I mean, how time flies between. I actually thought that he would probably be about 54, 55, something like that, you know, 27 years after. But here we are. Pat is 60. I really congratulate you, Pat, because you proved, thank you, because you proved that thank you. I think you proved that you can live many lifetimes in one, you know, and all that you might to do in so short a time proves that indeed it is possible, even here, to do so much in such a short time. Happy birthday, and I wish you well. I hope that in another 10 years you will truly have seen the Nigeria of your dreams. But I think I must congratulate your much better half, who, as you very graciously have conceded, has tolerated you for so many years. Dr. Ifeoma Utomi, congratulations, and thank you also very much for taking care of our dear friend Pat. Just as Pat has said, he and I have been talking for very many years. Very, very many years. And in the past few years, Pat and I sat on committees working on the manifesto of our party, the APC. And some of what I'll be sharing today is the product of Pat's work and a lot of his creative thinking. I want to say that the issues around wealth, poverty, and human dignity for me revolve around the central question of how the Nigerian elite perceives its responsibility. And I'll come to that in a moment. The right to human dignity first is itself an inalienable right. It is not given, it's not a gift, it is a birthright of sorts. And we're entitled to it because we are born, because we exist. A recognition of this right is by itself self-affirming. In other words, it is the rationale for our being superior to animals. It's the very reason why we're superior to animals, the dignity of the human being. And that's why societies that are considered civilized, whenever a society is considered civilized, is in some senses an affirmation of its movement away from the animal state or from the animal kingdom. And societies that are considered not so civilized just indicates that they are closer to the animal state. So the reality is that human dignity is what makes us different from animals. Human dignity is what separates us. But extreme poverty is the most poignant indicator of the absence of human dignity. Extreme poverty, and I'm sure that most of us have either experienced it or seen it firsthand. Extreme poverty is the most poignant indicator of that absence of human dignity. People living under, as they say, $1 a day means that the human being or family scrounges like a beast for daily bread and is exposed to disease, harsh conditions every day. Poverty and poor nutrition ensures that the children of the extremely poor are stunted in mental development. It lowers the possibility that they will live beyond the age of 5, and it ensures that most will give birth to at least another generation of the extremely poor. The wealth of individuals, on the other hand, in our societies is inherited, worked for, or stolen, sometimes a combination of any of these possibilities: inherited, worked for, or stolen. Governments have a crucial role to play in arbitrating the rules that lead to wealth or poverty. What governments do also depends on what the elite, beginning with the political elite, believes or does not believe. Indeed, the national elite, the professionals, religious and political, to a large extent determine and reinforce the rules of the game. To a large extent, the national elite determines what prominence will be accorded to human dignity. In Nigeria, the rough consensus has been that extreme poverty is acceptable. That is not necessarily offensive or a demeaning thing. The large numbers of the extremely poor who roam the cities and waste in rural settlements have never really outraged the collective consciousness. The collective consciousness here of the Nigerian elite. The poor and their misery is an acceptable part of the national landscape, and consequently over 110 million Nigerians live substandard lives, derobed of the inalienable right to dignified existence. As I noted earlier, government arbitrates the rules that lead to wealth or poverty. National or subnational budgets and plans generally emanate from the elite agreement about what is important and what is not. In most cases, our economists and public finance technocrats and politicians have been trained to accept that poverty is an inevitable reality. Extremely large numbers of the poor will not radicalize their approach to budget and planning. It's usually sufficient to do some token poverty eradication scheme, and every once in a while a legislator or senior public official will go to his rugged community and do an empowerment program. The financial elite is preoccupied with growth figures. 7 percentile growth rates, 3 years running, coexisted side by side with rising poverty, what the World Bank described as ruthless growth or jobless growth. The acceptance of corruption, both official and private, is an important feature of that analysis. The conversion of public or official property for private benefit is considered generally okay. Government, which is, as we pointed out, the arbitrator of the rules which determine wealth or poverty, is periodically hijacked by the political elite and permanently by the civil service elite. So the rules are observed or applied in a manner that favors the stealing or diversion of public funds to private pockets. The amazing thing is that it is accepted as the norm. Let me give a quick example. There's a very lucrative oil well, which of course is the property of the Nigerian government, ostensibly held on behalf of the people. Sometime in 1997, a certain oil minister awarded it to himself and the then head of state. A few years later, governments changed. The new government revoked the license in anger. The former oil minister went to court and to arbitration. No one argued that he had stolen the Commonwealth and should be explaining himself in a criminal trial. So he actually got a settlement out of court. But that's not all. Eventually, the oil well was taken away from him again and given to an international oil company. But another government comes and says, in order to settle the dispute between the minister, the new company, and the new company which took the block, it would broker a deal. The government became the arbitrator. The government now asked the new owner, the international company, to pay $1 billion to aid the government for the well, and agreed with the minister to transfer all the money to him as soon as it was paid. So the minister became the former minister became $1 billion richer on an oil block that belong to the Nigerian people, with the official endorsement of the government. Recently, a British court expressed amazement that the government of a nation could so arbitrarily rob its own citizens, commenting about this particular case. The stories of how oil, the main source of national revenue, is appropriated by a few, with the connivance of government structures, boggles the mind. There's an outstanding case of oil contracts between the NNPC and private individuals that led to the lifting of over 1.8 billion, and not a dime was paid to the country. By the way, the country's entire external reserves is now about 28 billion. Scam after scam, national revenue is privatized, and so even at the highest oil prices, reserves actually were dipping. I'll not mention the recent revelations on arms purchases, etc. The point to note, and the point that is being made, is that there is a certain hubris, a certain disdain with which the majority are treated. Despite the sheer outrageousness of corruption, there are always attempts to weaken the resistance to prosecution. Oh, the process is selective, or it is only Southwest people who are being arrested, or the prosecutor is a Christian, or the judge is a Muslim. The poor, on the other hand, are so battered and alienated that they sometimes cannot even comprehend the enormity of the injustice done against them. President Buhari came into office determined to change the foregoing narrative. First, the administration decided that we must actively and decisively deal with corruption, actively block leakages in public finance, and ensure that government revenues are collected and accounted for. Create an enabling environment for commerce and enterprise, and launch perhaps the most ambitious social protection program in the nation's history. I'll focus on the social protection program. And here again, I'll mention that PAT was very instrumental in a lot of the social protection initiatives that we have in the APC's manifesto, and of course reflected in the 2016 budget. The most important thing to note about the 2016 budget, insofar as it concerns social protection, is the fact that for the first time, a government decides as an ideological position that it is important to make provision for the largest number of those in society who are poor. And for the first time, government is spending, aside from expenditure on education and other social services, government is spending 500 billion naira on social protection initiatives, beginning with the homegrown school feeding program. The homegrown school feeding program is designed to ensure that in every primary school in every state of Nigeria, everyone from primary 1 to at least primary 4, and then depending on the collaboration with the state government, all the way up to primary 6, are given 1 meal a day. The 1 meal is a homegrown 1 meal. In other words, it is a product of agriculture within that particular state. Kaduna State, I'd have to go through this quickly. Kaduna State started its own program about 3 weeks ago. And what it has done is that it has relied entirely on food that is grown in Kaduna State. It has relied entirely on catering services and everything that is homegrown from Kaduna State, and is currently employing 50,000 additional people just from the homegrown school feeding program alone. The point of the homegrown school feeding program, of course, is that there is a multiplier effect. Aside from the fact that it works well with agriculture, there are also those who will be providing the services, who will cook the food, who will serve the food, and it does something for the children. One of the most important reasons why homegrown school feedings are popular in other places in the world is because they also help to take the children away from malnutrition, which is one of the primary reasons why children suffer from stunted intelligence or their intelligence is arrested. That's one. The other is the CCT, the conditional cash transfers. Now, the conditional cash transfer is not original at all. As a matter of fact, it's been made popular in a few countries, especially Brazil, which has one of the best models called the Bolsa Familia. The point of the conditional cash transfer is that for the extremely poor, for the poorest in society, for those who are considered extremely poor, and I'll come to how that is measured, it is important to put some cash in their hands. And cash in their hands is not necessarily a waste, or it's not necessarily just giving money away. As a matter of fact, it is, as someone has described it, one of the notable is Leonard Lavinus, who is one of the notable professors who has studied this for the World Bank. He claims that this is one of the best pro-market social protection programs. In other words, because you have people who have nothing at all are given some money, they are able to inject money back into the economy. They're able to buy things from the markets. They're able to provide for themselves, and in some cases even save a little. Now, what we plan to do is to give a maximum of 5,000 naira to beginning with 1 million of the poorest people in society. At the moment, we're gathering using a social register scheme that the World Bank has been working on for the past few years. And we're looking at every local government, looking at the poorest segments in those local governments, and gathering names and doing biometrics as well. Everyone who gets that amount of money will be required to do two things. One, first, we're targeting women who will get the money because we think that women will manage it better than men. But everyone who gets the money must have children in school. Either their children are registered in school, and they must participate in immunization. That's why it's called a conditional cash transfer. Some also have to undergo some training where training is available. There are various segments, It's a very detailed program. I'm just giving the headlines. But the whole idea is that money will be made available. Beginning the first phase, we are dealing with at least 1 million Nigerians who are considered extremely poor. And of course, the vulnerable also, the disabled, will be in that number. The disabled poor will be in that number. In order to create jobs directly, and of course, we all know that government cannot, create jobs or should not, as a habit, create jobs directly. But government must, in situations of emergency, such as we have now, ensure that it is able to create some jobs or create some jobs and add some value as they do so. And that's why we have the 500,000 teacher scheme. Now, this is for graduates who are unemployed. And what we've decided to do is that 500,000 such graduates, state by state, we'll take a certain number per state, depending on the size, depending on the numbers that are required there, and train them to be teachers. Now, they are regarded as volunteer teachers, but they will be paid, and they will be required to work within their own local governments. But the whole idea is, first of all, to help the educational system. There are several places where several local governments that have no teachers or very few teachers indeed. So we expect that will help the educational system. But we also expect that this will be a way of providing some jobs for those who have no jobs at all, while they are transiting to finding proper jobs that suit their careers. So the 500,000 teacher local government scheme is a very important one from the point of view of just creating direct jobs for graduates who have no jobs. Then 370,000 vocational skills. We're going to be training non-graduates who have at least basic education, have gone to secondary school. Some may have the West African School Certificate or GCA or that level, but the majority of them are persons who at least are literate enough to learn some skill. And we're going to be looking at 370,000. We're doing at least 10,000 per state of vocational and skills training generally. And we expect that this will, and they will, of course, after the training, they'll be paid and given some allowances so that they can at least buy equipment depending on what it is that they are doing. We also have a scheme for 1 million market women and artisans. Now, this is a scheme that we're working through the BOI, through the Bank of Industry, and the Bill Gates Foundation. The Bill Gates Foundation basically is helping to provide a financial inclusion framework for about 1 million market women and artisans. And also, they are also helping with the conditional cash transfers, by the way. But the most important part of this is that market women and artisans will, through their unions, will be given grants, will be given loans, beg your pardon, which will be supervised by the Bill Gates Foundation and some of these other development partners that we are working with. And the whole idea is to give loans to these market women and the artisans, and also some financial planning, some training in financial planning. They will, of course, all have to open bank accounts that have BVN numbers and all that. And, of course, they will be in the tax net also. So these are some of the social initiatives. Of course, we also have the Universal Healthcare Insurance Scheme, which we're hoping to launch very shortly. The whole idea, of course, of the Universal Healthcare Insurance Scheme is to complement the primary health care, to complement our primary health care scheme. We're planning on having primary health care centers in every single ward. Now, but importantly, the universal health care insurance is one that will guarantee that every Nigerian has access to health care, even where health care may be expensive, at least primary health care. And we're rolling out the Universal Healthcare Insurance Scheme, the MAS scheme. Of course, many will say that that scheme has been in existence, but of course, it has not been, it has simply not been operationalized. I think at the moment there are about 5 to 6 million people under the scheme. Most of them are government workers in the federal and states and all of that. But now we're thinking of rolling this out for the Nigerian generally. The big challenge, of course, with social protection is how to do scale and how to impact the millions of the poor. And the other, of course, is capacity. Everybody talks about how are you going to deliver this, how is this going to work, will it not just be killed in the corruption and all that. But the emphasis, and our emphasis, is on ensuring that as we develop the programs and as we roll out the programs, we're also developing capacity. And that's why we're working with several civil society groups and several international partners, development partners, who are all quite experienced in some of these activities. But the challenges, of course, remain. And but my attitude to that is that we've got to deal with these challenges anyway. I'll just leave the matter of the social protection alone. I'm not going to go into the other aspects because I just want to concern about the questions of the poor. But everything else, must conduce to relieving, to ensuring that we're able to roll back poverty in this country. And the current budget attempts to do that, from infrastructure development to trying to create an enabling environment for local and foreign investment, to agriculture, trying to scale up agriculture. Just listening to what Father Godfrey had to say was just absolutely incredible. And I think that those kinds of initiatives, we need to simply scale them up so that we all can benefit and the entire country can benefit. Also, to incentivizing technology, the startups, the technology startups. There's a lot of work going on doing precisely that, and we're working with several different teams of young people looking at how to develop tech cities, industrial parks, and those kinds of things. We hope that in the next few years we'll see some real progress in that direction. But bottom line for most of this is education. We need to reorganize our educational system The educational system must reflect the new realities of the 21st century. There's no question at all that technology is going to be the deciding factor in the next few years. Whatever it is that we choose to do, whether it's agriculture or whatever, you definitely are going to need technology. And I think that from early school to primary school, we must begin to teach technology. We must begin to expose young people to technology. As I say, that is the fourth industrial revolution. In conclusion, let me just say that our country needs a new tribe of people. I was saying a few days ago to a gathering of individuals who are involved in prosecution, and I was saying to them that we've heard all the standard excuses, when you look at a list of people who have embezzled large sums of money or who have stolen the Commonwealth, they include everybody. You'll find Yorubas, Igbos, Hausas in the same conspiracy, Muslims and Christians in the same conspiracy. There is no argument at all. None of them says, you are from South, so don't participate in this deal. Or you are from North. No. Everybody works together, and they work very actively together, and they stick together like glue. They protect each other, they fight for each other, and they will do anything for each other. That tribe, the new tribe of Nigerians is necessary. A tribe of Nigerians who are not asking questions about where you're from. They're not asking questions about what your religion is. They're simply saying that we've come together as a country, as a nation, and that we can make a great nation of this nation of ours. We can. It's possible. It is that new tribe of Nigerians that I think we all should belong. That tribe that doesn't know the North or South or the West, or doesn't even know religion. Just the Nigerian, the great Nigerian. Thank you very much. Know each other very few.
Your Excellency, sir.
And became the arbitrator. The government now asks
Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we thank you for that wonderful presentation, and
the government for the well, and agreed with the minister to transfer all the money to him as soon as it was paid. So the minister became former minister became $1 million.
We have a special surprise. It's very rare to take him unawares, but this is today happens to be the birthday of our chairman.
The British expressed amazement that the government of a nation could so arbitrarily rob its own citizens. Commenting about this particular
no, the chairman is not 60. Chairman is about 45 now. Because when I look at the combined age on this table, it's nearly like 1 million. And if we go by grey hair, then the Reverend Father and the Vice President should have lion's share.
By the way, the country is entire.
But truly, the allied business is the reason why government actually does a lot of activations and creating opportunities.
And so even at the highest oil prices,
we thank you, sir, for your discipline. Please let's give him another round of applause. So thank you, Mr. Vice President. We're ready for the cutting of the cake, and it's for our chairman. So, Mr. Chairman, sir, the Vice President will supervise the cutting of the cake. We're at Ogun State for the 40th anniversary of Ogun State, and I had to ask the President if he brought his knife for cutting of the cake, but here today we have a knife.
they sometimes cannot even comprehend enormity of injustice done against them. President Buhari came into office determined to change the foregoing narrative. First, the administration decided that we must actively and decisively deal with corruption, actively block leakages in public finance, and ensure that government revenues are collected and accounted for. They are able to inject money back. That's why it's called the condition of cash. Non-graduates who in some of these activities. All the challenges, of course, remain. But my attitude to that is that we've got to. Yorubas, Igbos, Hausas, in the same conspiracy.
Hello. All right. Okay. So, the birthday. Hold the knife. All right, and then the rest of you will just, Vice President, just put your hand on top of, yes, like that. Then all of you stretch your hands towards. Stretch your left hand. No, the left hand. When you're standing on this side, you stretch the left. Okay. No, sir. No, the left. The left. And then those on that side will stretch the left. Sir, you're doing like PDP. Stretch your hand. The hair like that. Yes. Mr. Jimmy, I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. All right, hey, like that. Yes, sir. Okay. So, sir, what are you turning, sir? 70? Okay, so we'll just do the birthday counter. So we're going to count upwards in 5. We'll count upwards, and it will represent the letters of Jesus, letters of grace. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Please give him a round of applause. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, can we take the cake out of sight and out of hearing, please? As the Vice President, His Excellency Professor Yemi Osinbajo will take his leave. All right. Okay, so hold the knife. All right, and then the rest of you will just, Vice President, just put your hand on top of, yes, like that. Then all of you stretch your hands towards. Stretch your left hand. Use your left hand. When you're standing on this side, you stretch the left. Okay, no, sir, no, the left. The left. And then those on that side will stretch. Sir, you're doing like PDP. Stretch your hand. The hair like that, yes. Mr. Jimmy, I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Like that, yes. So, sir, what are you turning, sir? 70? What are you turning, sir? Okay, so we'll just do the birthday count. So we're going to count upwards in 5. We'll count upwards that it will represent the letters of Jesus, letters of grace. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Please give him a round of applause. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. All right, can we take the cake out of sight and out of hearing? As the Vice President, His Excellency, Professor Yemi Osinbajo will take his leave. On the mic, we're working.
Okay, no, we are not working. You are working. At least
we're working for the Dan. No. At least we're not on Dasuki's list, so we have to work.
Okay,
yeah.
Where's the payment from?
All right. So, Your Excellencies, we're just waiting for. They said Abiola's shave a man's head on his behalf. So they will soon be back in, and then we'll continue because the discussants are ready. And so once they come back, and we would like to also recognize the presence of Manager Social Performance and Planning, Mr. Olatunji Idowu, of representing the Chairman and the Managing Director of Chevron Nigeria Limited. Thank you. National Association of the National Open University loves our students, and we thank you all for finding time to come. Thank you. When the Prof comes back, I will let him know that you guys are here and represented. Thank you all. Prof is back. So we have to. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Prof is. Thank you so much, sir. The Vice President is gone, so sir, you move to this seat now. Can we take the cake out of sight? Madam, so you close up, sir, to the next seat, sir. As the Vice President, His Excellency, Professor Yemi Osinbajo will take his leave. All right. So, the 60-year-old people are the only people on the table now, except for Nana. Nana is the only. Oh, okay. Sorry, and you, ma. Sorry, I'm Mrs. Utobi and Dr. Mrs. Utobi. There are only two young people on that table, and they are the two people that are below 60. Those are the youths here. The rest of them are on the other side. They are the hello from the other side of 60. All right. So I would like to, Mr. Chairman, sir, I would like to come to you, sir. Yes, sir. So please, ladies and gentlemen, please let's give Uncle Felicia Phillips a round of applause. Give him a round of applause, please. All right. So, Your Excellency, we're just waiting for. Hello. They said Abiola's shaving man's head. On his behalf, so they will soon be back in, and then we'll continue because the discussants are ready. So
once they come back, we'd like to also recognize the presence of Manager Social Performance and Planning, Mr. Olatunji Planning, representing the Chairman.
Right, well, everybody, we're back on track. Sorry for that short break in transmission.
National University lost us today.
You must admit, I certainly feel that this session so far has been extremely interesting, and a very solid foundation has been laid for the kind of discussions that we want to proceed with. We are going to have a panel discussion, and obviously to move forward, we want to create a foundation for that discussion by having a presentation by Dr. Fred Olayele, and from there we will then begin to have various discussions. I think it is so clear that the depth and length and breadth of the topic itself of wealth, poverty and human dignity, when you listen to the different interpretations that have been given today, shows that there is a lot to talk about, and there is a lot to be given direction in. And I hope that Dr. Fred Olayele will help us with that. Doc, over to you.
All right. So, the 60-year-old people are the only people on the table now, except for Nana. Nana is the only. Oh, okay. Sorry, are you?
I guess all the excellencies
are
evaporated now.
Mr.
Chairman, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen.
Those are the youth.
Good afternoon, everyone.
The rest of them are on the other side.
The topic at hand this afternoon is a very simple one, yet complicated. Poverty, and dignity.
I would like
and I'm going to be looking at it from two perspectives.
Yes, sir. So please, ladies and gentlemen, please
I'll try to draw lessons from Canada, as well as look at classical liberalism, and ideology and economics. I will share some of my insights, as well as concerns about the limits to economic understanding of these intellectual challenges. But before I start, I would quickly like to say thanks to my Canadian friend. We flew together last night. Paul, where is Paul here? Stephen. If you can start off, please. So welcome trying to do your next vacation destination. And the guy felt so, he got it. He returned the money, came back to me and apologized. It's unfortunate that two folks who try to liken poverty to the loss of dignity, they've left. But I was going to seriously challenge that thesis, that I do not agree. There are two parallels, and I will showcase what I've got here. So what is dignity to start with? Dignity is a universal concept. It provides the basis for all global human rights analysis and discussions. The number of international human rights bodies confirmed. I'll just reference one. Mr. Chairman, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which says, quote, that these rights derive from the inherent dignity of the human person. It is earned. By virtue of being born into this world, you earn dignity. It is no respecter of your abilities or disabilities. It doesn't matter whether you are a man or a woman or a boy or a girl or a celebrity or a politician, a multi-millionaire, a mentally challenged person, an old person, a day-old baby. Dignity has nothing to do with that. The mere fact that you're a human being means that you earn dignity. And so the foundational linkage between human rights and human dignity is very clear. The overarching idea is that of the worth that demands respect. And what I'm saying here is that it is the worth that humans have as humans. So no matter what abilities or disabilities they have, you can't earn or lose dignity, in any circumstance. It is for humans, and that's it, period. let me start by asking a quick question here. And the question is, have you ever seen families who live in abject poverty, in poor communities, but yet live so happily and so dignified? My answer to that is yes. Pardon me. There are so many poor people who can barely make ends meet, but are very, very happy and are dignified. And how about the opposite? There are so many money bags, rich people, who have a lot of money, but yet are not dignified. So we have to be careful to not liken poverty to the loss of our dignity. I, as a person, I do not agree with that notion. So let me bring economics into this. And pardon me if I'm going to say some jargons there. You know, I love economics. That is what I do for a living. I teach economics. Our dignity, you know, is all about freedom, making free choices. And this topic is deeply rooted in classical liberalism, like I earlier said, considering the emphasis on civil liberties, political freedom, the rule of law, and economic freedom. So the core moral insight here is what it means to respect a person as a core moral agent, to give them the freedom to choose. The freedom to choose, good or bad, it doesn't matter. The dignity of a human person is giving that person the freedom to choose. So the moral insight is the basis of classical liberalism, free enterprise. You talk about economic freedom, you know, free markets, free trade, property rights. And when you talk about economic freedom, especially in the West, it's a big thing. In Canada, there is what we call the Fraser Institute. Every year, they release their economic index for North America. They do it internationally and subnationally. And a lot of investors who go to those countries look out for the current ratings. And how do they arrive at those indexes? They look at the policy regimes, taxation regime, royalties, infrastructures. So what that means is governments are always very careful to not toy with people's freedom. The popular Indian Nobel laureate, Sen Mata, once says that the expansion of freedom is both the main end and primary means of development. So for a lot of folks who do international development, the trajectory is changing. The debate is changing. That it's high time that people should now begin to see dignity, see development in terms of dignity. Because when you see development in terms of dignity, then your approach and your mentality changes. So I'll pause for a sec and go back to dignity. Most people, especially in this part of the world, you know, in the developing world, we tend to hold the view that human dignity can be treated in the same fashion as poverty. They interpret it to mean that those who are at the bottom of the socio-economic ladder lack dignity. And it is therefore it is the job of the rest of us in society to help them out. No. It's a good notion to help people who are in need. But the reality is, it is wrong to interpret poverty as lack of dignity. And again, I go back to those in international development. There are popular notions and concepts all over now. There are such things as we don't want your development. There are so many communities who tell people who do charity work to go. We don't want you. We don't want your aid. We don't need your charity. Just go. The Zambian economist, Dambisa Moyo, you know, once was going to fight with Bill Gates, you know, on the issue of debt, aid, and what have you. So, the essence of what I'm saying here is that we live in a world where poverty, you know, ravages billions of people, the lives of billions of people. Nearly half of the world's population lives on less than $2 a day. That's a population of about 3 billion people. And even more frightening is the fact that 1.3 billion live in extreme poverty. They live on less than $1.25. So in the last 3 decades, the last 30 years, you know, a lot of progress has been made. Look at China alone. I mean, the Chinese succeeded in lifting about 800 million people out of the 1.1 million in abject poverty for the developing world. Let me repeat that statistics, maybe it would resonate. Out of the 1.1 billion people living below the poverty line in the developing world, China between 1981 and 2011 lifted 800 million out of poverty. That's close to 80%. So, but would it be right to now assume that because China improved its poverty rating and moved people out of poverty, would it be right to conclude that China is that country that promotes human dignity? Of course, no. The human rights record in China is something you don't want to hear at all, okay? Or how about economic freedom? How free are economic agents in China? It's one of the worst countries in terms of human rights record and economic freedom. But yet it has succeeded over a 30-year period, to move people out of poverty. So I hope that that rings a bell quickly. The second thing that I wanted to talk about, quite unfortunate that the Vice President has left, but I hope the media people here will do me a favor and make sure to pass this tape to him or the news stations, That's the fact that no matter what we do, we cannot eradicate poverty. I'm not a prophet of doom, but you can't eradicate poverty. Even in the US, in Canada, in the affluent countries, you can't eradicate poverty. You can have social programs and a lot of stuff, but it's not for, I don't know of the next generation, but in the next 50 years, based on all of the indices that we see, it's not going to be that easy to eradicate poverty. So I hope that, so if it won't be easy to eradicate poverty, why then shouldn't we then focus on other things that can make people feel dignified? I don't know if you know about the stories of the Aboriginal people in Canada. In a way, their story is similar to the people in the Niger Delta in Nigeria. So many years ago, those guys were driven away, they got their land and what have you. They were compensated. That story is very similar to the Niger Delta, because of the need to explore and exploit natural resources. Some of them were driven away. I'm not saying it was bad to have driven them away, In economics, you use Pareto analysis to do public analysis, like if it's good for the rest of society. You could always compensate those that would lose some stuff, right? They got money, they were relocated. But the point of the matter is, till today, a lot of those people are sad people. Why? Because they were deprived of the need to vent for themselves, to be able to work, the dignity in labor, to work and do what they know how to do best. Two quick things on policy. In Canada, Canada is a fiscal union, just like the same way we practice fiscal federalism in Nigeria. And there are two major policy tools that government uses to address the issue of dignity, not necessarily to address poverty. You look at equalization payment. It's a transfer program for addressing fiscal disparities among provinces. In the polar region, the northern regions of Canada, 9 months in 1 year, people can hardly move anywhere. Uses it policy. They are happy. They stay there. They will not, because of that, go to Vancouver or move to Toronto. They are happy where they are. The second thing is the Canada Health Transfer. This is the largest transfer to provinces and territories. And it is based on the principles of universality, comprehensiveness, portability, accessibility, and public administration. Again, you are a human being. It doesn't matter your affiliations, your social, religious, or ethnic affiliation. A friend of mine, born in Nigeria, immigrated to Canada like myself, 4 years ago, was pregnant. We used to live together in Regina. She was just 4 or 5 months pregnant, and for some reason, the labor pains and other things came, and it started to look like she was going to give birth. They had to airlift this lady from Regina to Winnipeg. And when they got to Winnipeg for another 3 to 4 months, the baby was put in an incubator or whatever, the best of care. That if you would put pecuniaries or put it in money terms, 30 million naira would not give her that. But she did not pay a dime. So what I'm saying here is that indirectly, government has already enshrined in its constitution and policy tools to give people dignity. About 2-3 years ago, the celebrant for today, Professor Utomi, gave me a copy of his book, The Business Angel as a Missionary, which is a compilation of his reflections as an economic growth activist. And when he asked me to come speak on this topic, I went to my shelf and got a copy of that book again. And the first paragraph, under the prologue, captures the very topic of today adequately, He said in that paragraph that of the many passions that have flavored his existence, 2 are the most enduring. Number 1, mere obsessions with finding how to end poverty. And number 2, the quest to uncover how man can institute means of attaining social justice without affecting his freedom to choose and his right to appropriate gains from his labor. That is profound. Profound in the sense that he realizes that there is a need to end poverty. But in doing that, he also accords utmost respect to those who champion free enterprise, the entrepreneurs who take all of the risks in the whole world. If you work for government or work for some people and earn paycheck, you don't know what entrepreneurs go through. I didn't know what it meant to be an entrepreneur until like 3 years ago, to when I started some ventures. So, this whole topic, reflects to a large extent a lot of the things that he has stood for, in his struggle to actualize a better Nigeria. Jonathan Glennon, with Save Children in the UK, said something that, again, is profound for me. He said the saddest thing in the world is not poverty. He said it's loss of dignity. So, folks, let's not mix things up here. It's not good to be poor, and whatever policy tools or actions that we can take to eradicate poverty, we should. But it is wrong to feel that once you are poor, you have no dignity. No. I left Nigeria about 10 years ago, used to work for Citibank here, but I left 10 years ago to get my graduate degrees. And my first major shock, I think I shared this story with Dr. Otomi before, I don't know if he remembers. My first major shock in Canada was when I bought my first home, I needed to fix something in the basement. So I called a plumber to come see what was wrong. And the normal Niger mentality, right? Okay, plumber, I'm upstairs. As he come, yes, that's the basement, da. He spent 40 minutes to diagnose and do all of that, and came back. Brought out a sheet of paper and, put something and gave it back to me. So I looked at it and said, okay, I've done the diagnosis. This is what we need to fix, and if you want to go ahead, let's sign a contract. But for this piece that I've done, you will pay this much. Here's my phone number. If you want to get the other one done, give me a call. Thanks, bud. See ya. So I called him back like, you haven't even done. He said he has to run for another job now, Just give me a call. And he left. So I called my wife, Titi, come, She was laughing, my wife is more exposed than me. The other sisters were all born in the US, so she was used to those kind of things before me. She started laughing. But what I'm saying in essence here is that in those parts of the world, it's already a part and parcel of who they are. It's already a part and parcel of the system. You see an old man who is 90-year-old walking by the street, you see the kids, grandchildren walking by. Hi, dad, hi, grandpa, they are going. They don't need to help. And even if you try to offer some help, that may be rude. You are trying to tell him or her that he or she is incapacitated. Or you go to the bank, you see people who are on wheelchairs, and you are trying to get them closer to the tellers. No, you don't have to do that. Okay, there's dignity in what they do, and you have to recognize that. Let me try to round up here so I don't... So in a nutshell, the fact of the matter is that for years to come, people will still begin to live below the poverty line. Access to good roads, healthcare, electricity, safe water, and other critical services will be elusive to some people for years to come. There's nothing we can do about that, because that's the fundamental problem of society. Resources are scarce, and that is the whole lesson. That's why we study economics. That's why you have political leaders and government. You have to make strategic choices to allocate resources and fill more pressing needs. But the bad news is that such exclusion will be based on socioeconomic status. If you want to help people out of poverty, or you are trying to see those who cannot escape the poverty line, it will be based on socioeconomic dynamics. But guess what? For human dignity, it is a transformational concept that knows no bounds, no social, economic, religious, ethnic, or gender barriers. So I brought another partner to Nigeria last year, or was it 2 years ago, Pierre. We had come here to see how we can leverage our Canadian expertise to help address some of the infrastructure gaps in Nigeria, at government level and all of that. And he came, again, we went to Prof, and we were discussing on how we could help to address some of these issues in Nigeria. And we had some meetings, with some corporate sector leaders. Professor Tommy was there, and some of the talks, seemed to be right. We were happy. When we got back to our hotel rooms, my Canadian friend said, wow, that guy is highly connected. He knows people. He is also very respected. In Nigeria, he's a corporate guy, board-level executive. I said, yes. And then 2 days later, we went to Prof's house. And Prof, when we had finished and we were about leaving, Prof said, guys, I would like to invite you to an event on Saturday. My friend was very curious. He said, oh, yes, we'd love to come. Where is it? And Prof said, okay, I will tell my staff to give you a face cap and a yellow T-shirt or something. We'll be walking the streets of Ikoyi and Maryland to identify with the poor people and the girls that were kidnapped and all of those kind of things. And he looks at me like, what? He said, okay, we'll get back to him. When we got back to the hotel, I said, Fred, what kind of person is your friend? He knows the president, and yet he wants to go march on the street. I thought you said in Nigeria there is this class thing. And I said, so that tells you that he's not, he's a rare gem, and really we should appreciate Dr. Otomi. It's a rare gem, and for me, I say this a lot, I like a lot of people, and I don't easily say, oh, this one is my role model, or whatever. But he's that one guy who is able to sit in the boardroom and discuss billion-dollar transactions, discuss free enterprise, entrepreneurship, economic growth, capitalism. And at the same time, when it is time to do activism and to provide safety nets for the weak and vulnerable, to care for the poor, the widows and widowers, he's that guy. I haven't seen any other in Nigeria. I was born, I bred here before I left 10 years ago. He's that guy who does it passionately without conditions. A lot of politicians claim to do that when it's close to the electoral cycle, You give scholarships to people and they must post with pictures that you can put on your Facebook page, so you can use that to canvass for votes. So for me, that is the one thing that really endears him to me. He's a guy who does not criticize entrepreneurship. He's a guy who realizes and believes that there is dignity in labor. If you would put your resources and time and intellects together, you should be able to share in the gains of your wealth of experience and risk. And at the same time, that when it's time to help the poor people and put them together, we should do. I will end my analysis by saying that to make any meaningful progress on the issue of human dignity, everybody must join hands to do this. NGOs, labor leaders, religious leaders, faith-based organizations, and other civil society actors. Government and also international development agencies must refocus. Mr. Glenn says, quote, development is dignity, or it is nothing. The opposite, that is, development without dignity, is not worth having. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Olayele. Thank you. Thank you. I think that we're going to have to find an opportunity to sit around the table and really have a bantering session, because your point of view I totally disagree with. But then again, you know, let us just move on. You've talked on quite a lot of issues, and we're not receiving presentations, but we're just going to receive some comments from the panel, and we'll start from Toshino.
Thank you very much. I don't think I would make a comment yet. I have to say something about parts. A lot of things have been said about him. I've always told him that there is need, if it is possible, to clone him. As a party, you know, we need to clone you so that we throw you into different parts of this country so that you can make contributions. He's somebody who has packed in about 120 years into 60 years. And I just pray God will continue to give him the strength. Sometimes I get worried about him, especially when he went into politics and he was traveling about. I said, goodness, this man, and he was still paying attention to these other areas. It's a very rare species. But thank God for your life. You will live long. You'll be around for a long, long time, by God's grace. Now, my worry is about the youths of Nigeria. Quite often, I get embarrassed when I notice that Nigerians are so beggarly. I don't know if you've experienced it. You know, you're coming from the airport, you are going, right, Oga, safe trip. What do you have for us? Oga, welcome. What do you have for us? This is not right. People are paid to do a job, and they are saluting you. You know, they are asking for gratification. To me, that is not dignifying. They are paid. It's not that they are not paid. They are paid. But it is in them to beg. Now, CVL, value is the middle name of Pat's organization. Value. I have heard Pat use that word in his books over and over and over again. Values and dignity. Why is it that it is difficult for people to maintain some self-worth? Why is it that we have to chase over net worth? I once had I saw a TV program once where a woman was being interviewed, and she said, she asked the son, what will you like to be when you grow up? Whom will you like to be like? And he said, Uncle Judy. He said, Uncle Judy. Why Uncle Judy? He said, Uncle Judy has 4 jeeps. That is net worth. as against self-worth. And we need to begin to challenge each other in this area, that there should be dignity. I was told by a journalist friend of mine that they went to Ghana, and I think there was some traffic problem, and they were flagged down by a policeman. And when he looked in the car, he saw that they were Nigerians. He said, "Oh, Nigerians, you can go." And one of them said, "But our driver is Ghanaian." He said, "Oh, then park. Then you should park." They were all embarrassed because the import of what he was telling them is the fact that the driver should be more sensible than the others. He said, "Nigerians with their wahala, just go." But Ghanaian, why should you do that? You know. So it's a problem. It's a problem that we all have to rise up to talk about. I am a visual artist, and anyway, my profession connected me with Patutomi, because he's an art lover, by the way. He has one of the most interesting collection of artworks. You know, some people have the money, but they don't. Money means road, as they call them. Art has not been sufficiently used as a means of empowerment of our youths. When I wake up and I see youths walking about the streets, if you are in my neighborhood, you'll be overwhelmed. They have nothing to do. They will play ball, they will play snookers, from sun up to sundown, they are doing nothing. And I always wonder, is it not possible to find a way, of attracting them off the street? One of the suggestions that we've made in the past is the fact that if local governments can set up art and craft centers, in those days we used to call them Boys and Girls Club. I can assure you that some of these youths are gifted, but because they have not been able to channel their creative energy into meaningful things, they get into trouble. If we could have these centers in local government areas as a way of empowering the youths in terms of creating, painting, drawing, sculpting, name it, you will discover that they will wake up in the morning and they will be eager to go and continue what they are doing. Nobody who is engaged in creative activities will have time for unwholesome things, apart from being financially, empowered. I've always said it when I was in Yabatech. When they say they have cult activities and they have a list of, cult students, I tell them, look at the list properly. You will not find anybody from the School of Arts. And it has always been so. Because we've given them so much to do that they will never have extra time to go and do other things. I round off for now. Maybe I'll come back later.
Thank you very much. We are running against time, and I'm going to be a bit unfair to Mr. Chukuma. Yes. So, but let's have your.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and happy birthday, Professor Tommy. I'd like to quickly return us to the theme of this section. And unlike the chairman who says he disagrees with Fred, I actually agree with Fred. As somebody who was born in 1966 in Nigeria, can also tell you something about what differentiates it, put it in a different spectrum from the whole notion of poverty and wealth. I was born on the Sunday morning, 1966. If you look at February 6, 1966, it's actually Sunday, 3 a.m. That record is still there at then Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Umuahia, which today is Federal Medical Center. At that time, I was told Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Umuahia was, it was like going to Harvard Medical Hospital or wherever to be born. And quickly, less than a year of being born in a family of a produce merchant, how those days agriculture was driving the economy. Less than a year, civil war broke out. From living in our own house, we started running from one village to another, ended up in a camp. And what my parents told me that I kept asking them in all those journeys was, when are we going to return home? And what was uppermost in the mind of kids, if you go to the Northeast today, the IDP camps, it's not actually that they are not fed, it's that they don't have choice. If I want to get up from this and go somewhere, can I do it? If I don't want to eat beans that is served today, because in most refugees camps, it's actually dry food that is served. It's yam, it's beans, because you can store it for months and years, and it will not rot. And that is your daily lot. So for me, dignity is the foundation of everything. And it leads me to ask the question, actually in our society today, is our main problem poverty, or actually lack of dignity? And if you ask me, it's lack of dignity. Because dignity, stripped to bare knuckles, is absence of choice, lack of opportunity. And when you are denied that, you can tell how you're going to end. And it makes a difference, a whole world of difference, between who is rich, who is wealthy, and who is poor. And any society that does not provide choice and opportunity in equal measures to its people is denying them their dignity. And that is the beginning of all adverse outcomes in society. And if you frame this issue, I know that perhaps those who put this team together were more business-minded than economics. That's why wealth, poverty was put before human dignity. If I were to frame it, I would say human dignity, poverty, and wealth. You may think it's a semantic difference, which is how many people will perceive it here. But in the development arena where I work, it leads to different approaches. It leads to, like we had earlier from the vice president, with good meaning. Kids are malnutrition. So if you give them food, it would make them to first be satisfied and listen to their culture. But we forgot that, especially in the East where I come from, in Igbo philosophy, the only person who is higher than you is a person who feeds you. And that's why in politics, in fight, in discourse, somebody will ask you, are you feeding me? Because that's the only thing in Igbo cosmology, Igbo philosophy, that tells you this person is higher than you. If that person is not feeding you, the person has no right to command compulsion from you. So when you are feeding kids in school, you know what you're telling the parents? That look, you are not able to take care of your own, that you have no dignity. And if you ask them, what they may actually do is something that gives them economic empowerment to be able to provide for their kids. So this whole notion of let's go and solve the problem of the poor have no food, let's give them food. I think we need to let go of it and begin to ask ourselves and begin to comport ourselves to listening to the poor as agents who wants change in their own lives. And that's why Martin Luther King in 1963, in his message of strength and love and say, philanthropy is commendable, but it should not lead the philanthropists to forget the issue of circumstances of economic injustice that makes philanthropy necessary. So in all of us here today, are we providing, in wherever we are we providing voice? Are we enabling participation? Are we giving people choices? Are we giving them opportunities? Or are we just saying, I will make all the money and I'll provide food for them. I'll set up meal times for them to come and eat. It reminds me of a joke, a friend of mine who was serving in Kwara State many years ago. They went to the house of an uncle who is from Onitsha. And the man brought out food for them to eat. And he said before they eat, they should pray. And the man, a rich man, said, God, you have done everything that you can do for me. What I now demand from you is to give me wealth that will enable me feed these people who are here and the rest. And they got up and left his house. That they said in Igbo, don't pray this kind of prayer again. We want to be empowered to be able to feed ourselves and our dependents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, you can see that this is really is a potentially hot debate, but unfortunately, we have run out of time totally. If you look at the program we have for today, we are running hours behind. And all I can say to you is that I hope you have certainly got an inclination of the relationship that exists between poverty, between dignity, between wealth. And I like the idea that if you put dignity before wealth and poverty, it totally redefines the discussion. I think the fundamental thing is whether we choose to be undignified or we act in a dignified way. And that now relates to the question of our values. If I decide to be undignified in the way I act, as opposed to being forced to be undignified because I don't have a choice, then it becomes an issue of value. And somebody said you have a one-armed beggar who takes handkerchief and is trying to sell it in the streets, and he's not saying his circumstances forcing him to go begging. He says, I have the kind of value that says I must maintain my dignity. So sometimes we have the choice of being dignified or acting in a dignified way or not. Sometimes we don't have a choice and we're really, really stuck. On that note, let me just thank our panelists and our speakers. I know that we really tolerate, I hope you're really tolerating the fact that we're running late. Somebody said I want to invite the next session. Please, a round of applause. I know it was short, but that's the way it is. Sorry.
Thank you very much, sir. Once again, I am being exposed for my incompetence in the area of proper pronunciation, having to speak after the chairman. Please give him a round of applause. It's always a delight listening to him. Yes, so at this junction, we are going to invite another academician who, if you were around yesterday, you'll be familiar with, to talk very briefly, for 2 minutes about a couple of books that were launched yesterday.
Mr. Chairman, maybe all protocols observed. Ambassador, sir, Your Excellency, my name is Michael Okom, Associate Professor, Faculty of Law, University of Calabar. Yesterday, we presented 3 books to the public. First one is The Art of Leading, and we also have Why Nations Are Poor, and the third one, Nigeria's Political Economy and the Courtship with Poverty, which is a compendium of readings in honor of Professor Pat Utomi. The Art of Leading is a book that emphasizes that leadership is not about position or power, but about harnessing the common resources for the common good. It encapsulates Professor Tomi's ideas about the kind of leadership that this country needs in order for us to be able to move from the backwoods of disintegration that we are in now and become major players in the global economy. Uniquely, it teaches about how you, as an individual, can also become a leader in your own right and contribute to the global effort to bring about the much-needed development that we're all craving for to win the battle against poverty. It's not about personal, perverted idiosyncrasies as opposed to fashioning a paradigm for social transformation. It's a very important material. You should pick a copy of that book. It's outside there, and it's for 5,500 naira only. And then the book, Why Nations Are Poor, articulates the various social, economic, and political causes of the retardation of countries in the vice grip of poverty and proffers practical ways by which nations can liberate themselves. And the lessons can be personalized to you as a person. You know why you are not really actualizing your potential, maximum potential. When you apply these same principles, you can lift yourself out of the unsavory situation you may find yourself. It's a must read. And then finally, I can see the pressure is already on me behind here. The book, this is The Art of Leading, and then this is Nigeria's political economy and the cutting with poverty, put together by the creme de la creme of Nigerian academicians. It contains an expanded version of the 2014 convocation lecture that Professor Toby delivered in the University of Calabar when he came as our guest lecturer. And then there are other articles that are tangential to the core issues of political philosophy espoused by the professor. You can find something here on religion and national renewal. You find something on poverty-related issues, find something on causes of poverty, issues of salary, issues of federalism, issues pertaining to aviation, issues about arms proliferation in the Niger Delta, women issues, ECOWAS issues. It's a compendium, it's a library, part power if you like. And I think everyone should be able to pick a copy of this book. It's just 7,000 naira. And I commend the materials to you and I believe that it will be an epiphanous experience for you as you go through these materials. Once again, please put our hands together for the author of these books and the subject of honor, the honorary. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you, sirs.
Thank you very much, Dr. Okom. Very quickly, time is fast spent. I would invite very, very distinguished young man who Professor Tomi talked about earlier on their trip to the US to come introduce the next activity. Please join me in welcoming Kingsley Banwell.
Standing on existing protocols, thank you, Prof, and congratulations in advance. And well, the next activity is a debate. It's called the Pat Utomi Prize for Students' Debates on Public Policy. Today we have 4 debaters who are coming to slug it out so that we will know who the first, second, and third are. What they are fighting for is the Star Prize that has been sponsored by none other than the celebrant Professor Pat Utomi. The first prize is 750,000 naira educational scholarship, and then the second prize is 500,000 educational scholarship, and then the third prize 250,000 naira educational scholarship. I thought we'll get a round of applause for. All right, so right away, let me first of all ask the judges to just come sit in front here. We have 4 judges, Shola Fagorosi, and then from One Life Initiative, Shola, please could you just come forward? And then we have Isioma Utomi. Could you just come sit in front? Come on, let's celebrate them as they come forward. And we have Mr. Tunde Makun, Coach. We call him Coach. Thank you, Coach, for joining. And then last but not least, Mr. Rashid Adegbenro. So we just have a seat there, and they will all be passed on the scoring sheets. And we have 4 debaters. And how did we arrive at this? Hundreds of debaters applied, sent in a 2-minute video, and then we had independent people score that. And then 16 of them were invited to Abuja on 22nd of January for a preliminary, and Prof spoke to them on phone. And that 16 went through a whole process that we arrived at the 4 today. And they are here with their family and friends. And even in fact, one of them has secondary school students even came to give support. So this is quite amazing from African Church Model College, Ifako Jaye Press Club. They came to give support. All right, so our 4 debaters, will they please, we have this seat there. There's a cameraman there. We would like them 4 to just go sit there right away. We have Oluwadara Olaniyan. Let's put our hands together as they move forward. Temi Wumi Akimu Lewa. Can you move forward? And then we have Elizabeth Nwanreze and Abigail Nwangu. So, quickly. The first debate will happen right away. We have 2 speakers coming to speak, team 2. And the topic is skill acquisition, not tertiary education, is the key to fostering massive job creation in Nigeria. Yes. There's a seat there. Yeah. So that's the seat we want you to sit in then. So the first team that will be debating, they are coming to debate on the topic, skill acquisition, not tertiary education, is the key to fostering massive job creation in Nigeria. Yeah, so they will sit in there. And the 2 debaters are Oluwadara Olaniyan and Temiwumi Akimuwale. Oluwadara is speaking for, and then Temiwumi is speaking against. And then once you come in, you just have 4 minutes to make your pitch, and that's all the time you have. There is no rebuttal, no time for rebuttal. So make all your points in just that one debate, and then the judges will decide. So let's Oluwadara and Temiwumi, and the first speaker will be Oluwadaran. You say the name of institution you're from, and then you have the floor. Let's put our hands together for them as they've been here all morning, energized and pumped up. But this is the time to show yourself. The first speaker will be Oluwadara, and yes, step forward, and he's speaking for the topic, the skill acquisition, not tertiary education, is the key to fostering job creation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Olani Odara from the University of Ibadan, speaking for the topic, skill acquisition, not tertiary education, is the key to massive job creation. A skill, according to the businessdictionary.com, can be defined as an ability or capacity acquired through systematic, deliberate, and sustained effort to smoothly and adaptively carry out complex activities and jobs involving cognitive functions, technical functions, and people relations. Therefore, skill acquisition can be defined as the obtainment or development of such abilities. Also, tertiary education refers to academic pursuits undertaken after secondary education. With the National Bureau of Statistics reporting that over 17 million Nigerians are unemployed and over 26 million Nigerians are underemployed, it is crystal clear that job creation is a necessity for the Nigerian economy. It is obvious that tertiary education has failed to meet the job creation need in Nigeria. According to a report published by the University of Uyo on the 22nd of September 2015 titled Entrepreneurial Education, a Panacea for Youth Development in Nigeria, it was stated that the curricula for tertiary education in Nigeria is tailored towards preparing our youth to work for others and seek formal employment. The issue tertiary education has failed to answer over the years is, if everyone is an employee, who would be the employer? It is this loophole that skill acquisition can take care of, which makes it the key to massive job creation. The Daily Independent reported on the 14th of February 2015 that stakeholders in the industrial sector of Nigeria's economy have constantly emphasized the need for skill acquisition as a way of developing entrepreneurs. Also, the Journal of Educational Policy and Entrepreneurial Research, published in 2014, noted that entrepreneurial development can be made possible through skill acquisition. All these highlight the relevance of skill acquisition in the production and development of entrepreneurs who are in fact job creators. This proves beyond a doubt that skill acquisition is the key to massive job creation. Reported on the report out of February 2015. It is essential to point out that the bone of contention is not whether tertiary education creates jobs or not, which it does. Rather, the point of this debate is, what is the key to massive job creation? That is, what is the key to the creation of jobs for a majority of the population? The Deputy Director and Training Manager of the Nigerian Enterprise Development Program, Mr. James Abimbola, stated that skill acquisition in the program is designed to train middle-level skilled manpower. These middle-level skilled workers make up the largest percentage of the workforce. This shows that skill acquisition can imbibe in youth the skills that will give them access to a large range of occupational opportunities. The US Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that as of 2013, 66% of jobs in the USA did not require any form of tertiary education and required only skill. In less developed countries like Nigeria, with lower industrial and technological development, it is obvious that such jobs that require only skill would be more. This shows that skill acquisition even provides people with more job opportunities than tertiary education. An example is agriculture, a sector in Nigeria which has not been paid enough attention. Agriculture is a timeless thing, as no matter how bad the economy gets, people must eat. Therefore, teaching youth skills relevant to agriculture could be an employment goldmine and could greatly boost employment and standard of living. Similar ventures include construction, hairdressing, fashion designing, and electronic repairs. In conclusion, we cannot spend many years in school only to let society educate us. The goal of any proper educational system should be knowledge and skill. And I once again assert that skill acquisition is the key to massive job creation. Thank you.
All right. Ola Dara has fired the first shot, speaking for the topic. And now, let's put our hands together as we welcome Temi Wumi Akimu Lewa as she comes to speak against the topic. Thank you. I think we could do a lot better in giving these debaters some applause.
Good afternoon, Chairman, judges, ladies and gentlemen. I am Temi Wumi Akimu from the University of Ibadan, and I will be speaking saying that tertiary education is the key necessary for fostering massive job creation in Nigeria. The fourth edition of the National Policy on Education are not but are also capable of innovation. Innovation, the key to massive job creation. It is the clear-cut difference between Fatima, who has learned how to make wara, local cheese from her grandmother, and Bola, a food technology graduate from the University of Ibadan, who runs a cheese production farm in Agbara with thousands of employees. Fatima has skills, one that puts food on her table, but because she lacks certain knowledge that can only be derived from a tertiary education, it becomes a Herculean task for Fatima to successfully manage a job creation platform such as a cheese production plant. Skills are necessary, but skills without the backing of a tertiary education will do very little in job creation. According to an article by All African Media, the top employers of labor in Nigeria are products of tertiary institutions, with Aliko Dangote topping the list, a product of Al-Azhar University, Egypt, with over 26,000 employees in Nigeria. It is obvious that the promotion of job creation requires the acquisition of a tertiary education, which encompasses knowledge, skills, and innovation. My opponent has decided to capitalize on the various problems facing the tertiary education system. But when you have a cut on your finger, do you remove the finger